local advertising is 184 billion.
Right.
Broadcasters alone are 15% of that.
Wow.
40+% are big technology companies. And so broadcasters at the end of the day are competing against big tech. And they are in this transformation stage.
This is Cannes 2026.
Yeah.
This is Big Data Brains with The Measure. I have here Jim Wilson, CEO of Madhive. Jim, the mission of Madhive is to help local broadcasters serve the advertising community in their area better. Is that a fair assessment?
Essentially, that's the way it started out. I mean, today we are a local advertising solutions and infrastructure company. So broadcasters do use us. We did start with broadcasters. I was actually the first client of Madhive 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
And
you were where?
Through a chain of events, Tegna, Premion.
Mm-hmm.
I started Premion and looked out at all of the tech platforms for delivery to see their ability to deliver into local geographies with a high level of precision. That's the most important thing for a local advertiser. If you are a local automotive dealer and you want to reach 3 zip codes and you want to deliver all your impressions in 3 zip codes and reach the audience that you want to reach in those 3 zip codes, we can do that. Then pull back back in 2016, Chevy heard about us, and all of a sudden we went from running small campaigns for local dealers to running all of Chevy's Tier 2 business. So
Tier 2 is the
Tier 2
tri-state
is tri-state area, yeah. So today, 10 years later, we serve broadcasters, almost every single one of them, minus 1 or 2, and I'm talking TV broadcast and radio broadcast, providing them infrastructure to run their advertising campaigns, to work with their local advertisers, to equip their local sellers, which is really one of their competitive advantages, right? The local consultative sell, I believe, is here to stay.
Because specifically, they're mostly dealing with small, mid-sized, tiny businesses, right? Who are spending in the 4 and 5 figures, not necessarily always in the 5 and 6 figure.
Correct.
What's the total addressable market? What percentage of advertising, television advertising in the U.S. do you think comes from that size business, that kind of local, regional, hyper-local business?
Well, I'll tell you the stats
60%?
that I do know is that local advertising is 184 billion.
Right.
Broadcasters alone are 15% of that.
Wow.
40+% are big technology companies. And so broadcasters at the end of the day are competing against big tech. And they are in this transformation stage. When I went to Tegna 10 years ago to start Premion, the idea at the time was they do need to transform into digital companies. So let's start building out or getting access to platforms that will teach their local sellers how to sell digital, to teach them how to be a digital company so that they would then begin to invest in their own digital content.
You do that? You go in and you help the sales teams at these local affiliates play the local digital game?
What's really cool is that we've built out, something called Maverick Seller, which is tools in the hands of sellers, which you pop in an advertiser. It will pull in immediately the history of all their past campaigns that have run through the platform. Wow. It will populate all of their competitors. It will pull up creative, and it will start making decisions around.
Will build an audience.
Then you put in the audiences that you're targeting. It will also test audiences. So it'll test audiences. We have a number of instances where we find out that they come to us and say, this is our audience, and we test that audience, and then we find other audiences through our Maverick platform that's constantly looking at data signals online to find audiences that will convert and get the outcome that the
This is
advertiser
a
wants.
new AI-driven product that you've been developing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been award-winning. What is the special sauce inside of it that really makes it different?
I mean, it's utilizing AI to look at, we've been in business for 10 years. We bought a company called Frequenz that had been in business for 14 years. So we can aggregate all this campaign data and all this outcomes from the past to look at what's a likely outcome.
It's teaching the large language model. It's not necessarily the model itself. The data that you have access to that's how you get precise. When you said with a level of precision, it's not just the zip code, right? It's also the behavior of the audience as well that you want to try to
100%. So, it started out 10 years ago as we were still looking for audiences in, discrete geographies. Like that was so important, right? Everyone talks about performance, and I get it. We're in the performance business too. But performance doesn't start until you deliver 100% of the impressions into the geo. If you are delivering 60% of the impressions, you're not getting performance. Right. And so what we've been on the mission with our broadcasters, their clients, and then we've been expanding outside of the broadcasters because the local media marketplace is significant, right? And so, working with other types of editors, anyone that is looking to run a local campaign should consider working with us because we deliver and find audiences and needle in the haystack audiences in small geos and can deliver them really better in our minds than any other platform.
I had this thesis that there's going to be $13 billion spent on the midterm elections in the United States. I had a theory that amount of money piping through, particularly hyperlocal and hyper kind of psychographic as well, that it would actually force a tremendous amount of progress into the local broadcast funnel. What do you think about that theory?
Yeah,
I mean, that's going to change the way speed up some of the transformation that's necessary in the ecosystem?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, broadcasters are public companies who are, obviously taking a hard look always at their existing linear business and preserving it as much as possible because it's highly profitable and it creates a significant amount of cash flow.
Right.
They're basically going to sell out. And what I loved when I was working at Tegna back in the day was that the TV stations would sell out. Then the overflow back at 10 years ago would come to CTV, right. And all the advertisers that were trying to advertise in the market, because when it hits election time and you're sitting there watching broadcast TV, it is back to back. Yep. Back to back. Yep. And then the local car dealer is enabled to place a commercial in the months of September and October.
So they moved to
streaming. They just launched a new car or home services or anything like that. So it's and that's why CTV started growing so much. And 10 years later, it's interesting. Again, you want things to go faster. I always want things to go faster, right? And 10 years later, we're meeting with the bigger agencies and they're asking us, with exasperation, like, we ran these campaigns, they didn't deliver in full. Right, and it really comes down to
the data health. I mean, it really is. You started by talking about precision, and the amount of data that you have. Drilling down not just to zip code, but also making sure that you're delivering 100% in that area, but also targeting the right audience at the right time too.
Right.
That's what.
And I'm just look. I mean, I have always been a huge believer in local media. Well, you spent a long time in that. Well, I mean, first of all, I have a history in it. My dad had a local business growing up, and my first job out of school with an accounting firm was to be my mom convinced me to be an accounting major. Yeah. And so, because I said I wanted to run companies someday, and she said that's a great foundation, and I got a job at Anderson, and back, and then Sinclair Broadcast Group was my first client, and I was like, man, I thought I made the big leagues, And so, Sinclair's a big company. Back then it wasn't, but it's much bigger today. So, but anyway, look.
Well, a lot of focus in the U.S. Around media is around local media right now. You've got consolidation going on. We talked about that before we started rolling. Here we are at Cannes. It's a time to meet up with folks that we've seen before, haven't seen for a while. and look ahead. What do you think the conversation around local will be over the next 12 months? Where do you think local will be this time next year in Cannes?
Yeah, look, I really hope that local continues to move forward. There's a lot of debate around whether the consolidation should happen. I'm most interested in the health of local media. I'm most interested in the ability for local businesses to promote what they do. I'm most interested in national brands reaching local audiences with the right message. The message that you deliver to an audience or the audience that a brand is trying to reach in Wichita is different than the one that they're trying to reach in Portland, Maine, right? And so we want to be able to continue to enable that. And also, I just a firm believer that local content needs to continue to grow. And so local digital content needs to continue to grow. It is how we learn about our communities. It's how we connect within our communities. We live in a collection of zip codes. If we've learned anything, United States of America or loosely affiliated group of zip codes, you know what I mean? And so, I'm just on this mission, or we are on this mission to ensure that we're providing infrastructure for anyone who wants to reach a local audience and promote local content. We have this massive consolidation of the walled gardens, which is putting a lot of pressure on local media companies. And so there's a big debate on whether local media companies should be able to come together. Now, there's details in there around how many affiliates you should own in a market. I mean, if you look at the radio businesses, they own 5, 6, 7 radio stations in a market.
Audio is a big part of your business as well.
Audio is a huge part of our business, and I tell you, audio is going through a change too. But there are companies like Odyssey and iHeart that are doing really well. Town Square is doing really well in the business, and so it's because they're quickly making the right decisions to use the right technology to deploy their business, and they're building digital content.
And as you've been saying for some time, local is growing more important. It is not getting less. The more we can get down to the community level and speak to consumers and citizens, the better off the whole.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know it's sufficient for brands to run a single creative across the country. It is 2026.
It isn't efficient.
It is 2026. Well, they think it is. It's 2020. The biggest misconception on local is that it is too much there in order to do. That's not true. And
you can actually
automation,
fix the
AI,
yeah,
exactly.
Cool. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Let's continue it later over some rosé. Sounds
good to me. Thanks a lot.
This has been Big Data Brains at Cannes 2026. We'll see you next time.